When we look at the life and ministry of Jesus, we see that he followed a pattern of working from rest rather than resting from work. One place we can see this is at the very beginning of his ministry in Mark 1, where he is on retreat in the wilderness for 40 days before commencing his ministry. But this is just reflective of a deeper pattern we see in the scriptures. For example, in Psalm 23, the psalmist lies down in green pastures before walking through the valley or confronting the enemy. We can even see it in how Genesis 1 shaped the Jewish understanding of time. For each day, it says, there was an evening and then there was a morning. So each day commences in the evening. In other words, the first part of each day is taken up with sleep or rest. Maybe the most important passage about this is in John chapter 15, verses 1 to 8, where Jesus says, "I am the true vine and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit he prunes, so that it will be even more fruitful. You are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you. Remain in me as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself, it must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine and you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire and burned. But if you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. This is to my Father's glory that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples." Jesus uses the image of a branch that is pruned right back to the vine, so that it is hidden in the vine before sprouting forth for a new season of fruitfulness. Here we see the rhythm of abiding and then fruitfulness, of rest and then work. In fact, abiding in Christ is a prerequisite for any sort of fruitfulness. Now, we live in an industrial, internet-connected, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, world full of constant stimulation and activity, and so this rhythm of life can seem foreign to us. We are used to working until we collapse into rest, and it can take some time for us to learn Jesus' rhythm of life. In my experience, establishing and maintaining this rhythm of rest and then work, of abiding and then fruitfulness, is an ongoing battle. I think I've mastered it on an annual and daily basis, but it's more of a struggle on a weekly basis. On holidays, God has graciously helped me learn of the importance of coming to a complete stop, like a flywheel slowing all the way down until it becomes stationary, rather than just slowing down a little bit and then accelerating back up again. I have learned it takes some time, but I can usually get to a place where I have stopped thinking, planning, scheming, worrying, even trying to be spiritual. It is in these moments that I am renewed by the truth that I'm God's child, even when I am doing nothing. And in more recent times, I've been able to transfer some of that into my daily routine. When I go to bed, which is near the beginning of the new day, I now pray something like this. At the beginning of this new day, Lord, I give you all my thoughts, feelings, fears, joys, concerns, and responsibilities. As I rest and abide with you in sleep, I trust you to run my universe until I wake in the morning. And then, inspired by the old chorus, I say, I turn my eyes to you, Jesus, and look full in your wonderful face. May the things of earth grow dim in the light of your glory and grace. The area which is sometimes a challenge for me is having a day off from work. I almost always have most of a day off from my work as a pastor, but I still sometimes let aspects of that work or some other ministry activity, separate from my pastor role, spill over into that day. So that is still an area of growth for me in learning to live with a biblical rhythm of work from rest. To help us remember this rhythm of life, there is a simple shape, and it is the semicircle. It is the shape that is produced by a pendulum swinging back and forth. At the left-hand end of the pendulum swing is the place of rest and abiding. At the right-hand end of the pendulum swing is the place of work and fruitfulness. The process of going into rest and abiding always involves pruning. You can only get there by cutting out, or at least temporarily putting aside, things from your life. And then after a period of rest and abiding, we then go through a period of growth that leads to fruitfulness. What we want to avoid is pushing so consistently into work that rather than swinging back into rest, we crash over into rest. Certainly in a spiritual sense, we can fall into this trap if we begin to see a drop-off in fruitfulness. Our work ethic reaction can be to work harder, but what we find ourselves doing is fighting against a God-ordained period of pruning. An example from nature, we don't see trees fighting against the browning and dropping of their leaves in autumn. So in these situations, the best way for us to get to fruitfulness is to embrace the pruning and enter into abiding in the sure knowledge that God will bring us into a new season of growth and fruitfulness. In fact, people who have learned to live this rhythm have observed that it's often the process of entering into a deeper season of abiding that leads to a greater season of fruitfulness.